Hello. It's great. I feel like I'm Madonna. I feel like I've always wanted to be Madonna. So this is my opportunity. Welcome and thank you for joining me to talk about diversity and creativity and to think about how we can take diversity and the power of creativity and bring those two things together. And when we bring those two things together in a meaningful way, we create real impact. And that's what I'm going to be showing and talking about today. So let's start by thinking about what we mean when we talk about creativity. Now, of course, you're all creative, so I don't think I have to give you the dialogue about what creativity actually is. But I do want to talk about creativity when we talk about diversity beyond the representation. So we talk about creativity in the way that we think, the way that we bring the information and the dialogue into our conversation. We think about how we take that diversity and turn it into creative ideas, and that when we create those ideas, they can be really meaningful. So you're sold on that. Let's talk about diversity. Because diversity is the one thing that everybody has a different opinion on. We wouldn't be diverse if we didn't. So diversity, of course, for some people means thinking about diverse perspectives, thinking about thoughts, thinking about experiences and backgrounds and how we bring that together. And for others, diversity is just purely characteristics of who we are. Now, you can decide which part of the fence you sit on. I sit right firmly between the two. I think diversity, of course, is all of those things. It's what makes us unique. And when we think about the power of that diversity, taking all of those aspects, both the individual aspects of who we are, plus the experiences, the thinking, and all of those backgrounds that we bring together, we can really have true power. Now, the idea of taking those two things, those two powerful elements, and bringing them together is what we're talking about, because we want to create an impact. Now, what do we mean by impact? We mean by going beyond creative ideas, one-off campaigns, ones that win amazing awards, and you remember for the awards, but don't truly change the behaviors in the long term. And of course, our role is to create behavioral change. I like to think that's why I came to the creative and the advertising world, because diversity is about behavioral change as much as the creative campaigns that we create can create that behavioral change in people. And when we bring that together, we can create long-term societal impact. And that's what we want to talk about today. How do we take ideas and how do we turn them into long-term impact in society? Now, I thought about how I could show this to you. And I was thinking, do I do this from the best ideas I've ever seen? But I want to critique them. And if I'm critiquing them, it felt like I might get into trouble with someone somewhere. So I decided I would look back into my career and think about brands that have tried to use creativity and diversity to create some type of impact. And we can decide whether they were successful or not. So I'm starting, I don't want to say how old I am, so I'm starting in 2006, and I'm at Barclays, big bank. Now, I hail from financial services, and I was at Barclays for a few years, and I'm looking at Barclays in terms of their wealth management division. Now, what Barclays wanted to do was to bring together all of the individual brands that it has. Stockbroking, private banking, international, UK, investment teams, and it wanted to amplify its wealth management brand, which is a great ambition. It also wanted to pay homage and recognize that money is no longer old money, it's new money as well. So they needed to appeal to more diverse people. Think about that one person who has just won the lottery, the Euro Millions, and just think how much now money they might have. And can we take that money and can those traditional stuffy bankers still get them? No, because the image and the view is that money is with older money and older generations, and Barclays want to attract that new money so that they can grow their business, and that's what we do. So let's look at what they did. Now, I give you my summary up front, so you don't have to wonder what I think. It had potential, but it missed the mark. Wealth. What's it to you? I loved it at the time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. It's like connecting me with Barclays, and there'll be images of different diverse people. There'll be different types of views of what generational wealth now means. And then there was this surfer catching the next wave. Sounds a bit old money to me. You know, planting trees so my children can get the shade. It was a bit diverse, but it wasn't really speaking to me in that new money type of way. By the way, I don't have any money, just want to say. They realized that they needed to understand cultural perspectives. They realized that they needed to understand how different groups and cultures believe in money and what they want to do with their money. Having things your grandparents never dreamed of. That really aligns from a diverse cultural perspective. Yet, they didn't make any impact. They of course, made the brand, and they all came together, and I can tell you, because I was there, once they had presented this new imagery, this new brand for their wealth management business, that it suddenly became something that they truly, as an organization, believed in, that we, as the employees, could get behind. But what they didn't do was create any societal impact. They didn't move the dial in any way that would make it new for people, that would change how you could look at money in the future. So it missed the mark. So if that's in 2006-ish, I'm fast forwarding a number of years to a different financial institution. This institution, one I'm relatively proud of, I just left, but in 2015 when I joined, they wanted to make a difference. It's insurance. Now, I don't know how many of you enjoy insurance. It's risky, it's risk business, and it is dull. It's grey. It has a very poor reputation, particularly in the London market, as being quite stuffy, very homogenous, and really lacks the creativity that would allow people to want to come and work, that allows them to understand new markets and to understand new risks as they emerge on the global stage, from cyber risk to to hurricanes, to whatever the trends are, whatever the risks are that are out there, put a rocket on Mars, all of those things, they want to underwrite and they want to insure. Kind of boring, yeah? Okay. So, what they wanted to do, though, with the new CEO, we have a new chief exec, it's a woman, first time in 300 years, and what they wanted to do was they wanted to bring diversity to the world of insurance. They wanted insurance to attract new talent. They wanted insurance to bring people in and to connect with clients like they had never done before. And they wanted to use diversity and inclusion. They wanted diversity and inclusion to be the new area that would allow them to evolve and become relevant in the future. So, what did they do? Dive in. A bit like this, a festival. A festival for diversity and inclusion within the insurance sector. 2015, 4 days, 1,700 people, about 20 events. I went to all of them. Brilliant festival. Let's see what happens next. What's great with the Dive-In Festival is that it took from one location in London in 2015 to 10 countries in 2016 to now more than 35 countries unifying together around one campaign to change the insurance sector. One campaign that brings together hundreds of volunteers, hundreds of CEOs, hundreds of companies that come together, and all without a huge amount of money. All the tickets are free. Over 30,000 festival attendees globally. Just think there, 1,700 to 30,000. And what's different is, of course, the pandemic, because the pandemic allowed us to go global virtually. When it was global and in person, it was 10,000 in-person attendees at the now 3-day festival. I take personal credit for that because 4 days, which was really 5, was just too long. So we shortened it to 3. So a 3-day festival that the entire industry lays down its competitiveness, stops competing, and comes together to create an impact. Now, are they making an impact? That's what you're really asking. It looks great, Pauline, but what's the impact? So I will tell you, they have moved the dial in terms of the messaging. Awareness is now there, and people understand that insurance is a sector that they can have a career in. Okay, great. What about the numbers? They are moving the dial slowly on gender equality and gender balance. And CEOs and every company across the market now has put targets in place for gender balance. Every one of those firms. The CEOs who were probably thinking, am I going to be out of a job? And they are still male, but they now have 0 companies with all male boards. And I think when you start to look at those numbers, they are making an impact, but we now need to see the results of that impact longer term. So they've made the commitments, and the reason why I say they are making waves is because they are making waves in their industry, but they still need to do slightly more to demonstrate that it has actually achieved the results. And so 7 years in, and 2 years of a pandemic, it is still growing, but I think the idea of not just having a festival, of decorating a building, of having dancers outside the iconic Lloyd's building is truly quite something. And of course, I didn't want to say that I said it was global. I thought I'd find one for Italy. This was the Italian festival earlier this year, and they were looking at particularly disability. So you can see that it is virtual, it's physical, it's in person, it's creative, and it is really embracing the power of diversity. But I think we can go better. I think there's more. There's one more that we can definitely see that looks at creativity and diversity in the real. I want to stand and tell you what it is. But I'll start by saying that I joined this company in 2007, just before the financial crisis. And I remember joining and thinking, less than 12 months later, oh my good gosh, what have I done? I'm going to lose my job. Because the first thing they slash is recruitment, development, and diversity. This company stood strong. This company continued to invest in the diversity program that it had enacted in the organization from 2007, and it was started in 2006. So from 2007, when I joined, to what we see in 2017, the Fearless Girl. I think everybody knows the Fearless Girl, but I want to be sure. I wasn't at State Street when the Fearless Girl appeared in New York, but I was so proud because that company had invested hugely in diversity from both its people that it brought in, as well as those who they wanted to move the dial on. They had set targets every year. They measured the progress. We had gender equality targets back in 2007. This wasn't them saying, we think you should do this, and not doing it for themselves. And that's when real diversity makes real impact. That's when you take that level of diversity where the organization has it as part of its being, it's part of the DNA, part of how it does its business generally, and you take that and bring it with a brilliant campaign, a creative idea that has the power to challenge. And let's be honest, some say it was a brilliant creative idea. Others will say it's nothing more than a PR and marketing stunt, because SSGA, who of course were launching their product to market on gender tracking of stocks and investment companies, and of course in doing that, the fund that they had released got huge amounts of publicity, 1 billion reposts on Twitter. I mean, in 12 weeks, that's huge. So when you think about it, they definitely made an impact. But that's only 4 years. So has that impact truly become something that is long-term? It's probably not quite long-term. In 10 years, 20 years, we might say, look back and go, 2017 was the moment. But actually, what we can do, and when you look at State Street, they continue to demonstrate what they are doing internally and whether the Fearless Girl is still challenging in her new position at the stock exchange. We know that they have identified those firms, continue to identify the firms that are not making changes, over 1,400. Over 800 organizations that they identified that have now placed a woman on the board, and over 300 decisions in year 4 that they have vetoed when they have gone into those investment board meetings. And you think about that, and that is when we say it's an impact. But what makes it so much of an impact is that the Fearless Girl went on the move. I didn't get to see her, I was so upset. But she traveled around the world. Now, reality is that she traveled around the world on where State Street wanted her to go, and that's a challenge now, because how do you take that and make it better? How do you take what was so phenomenal at the time and continue to drive that message through? And I think when you look at what happens with the girls, when you look at people coming together, that I think is the one thing that State Street could continue to do to bring the Fearless Girl and take it further. This year for International Women's Day, she was positioned amongst breaking glass to recognize the glass ceiling, the glass ceilings, if you like, that are being broken. So continue to evolve that creative campaign, but with the same core message. We are breaking the glass ceiling because companies perform better when they are more diverse. That was their simple messaging. And the idea was that by placing it with the bull, it was only you, but now there's me too. And there are 2 of us in this show. So, those are my 3 big areas of creativity, diversity. Barclays, not so good. Lloyd's, on the journey. State Street, making ground, really breaking that ground. So what does that mean for us? And so, of course, I've moved on from Lloyd's and I'm now at Dentsu. I feel like I've come home because I wasn't creative at heart, but like any true follower of fashion, I think I am creative. So I've come to an industry now where I think we can make an impact. And the reason for joining Dentsu was because I felt we could make meaningful impact, that we could truly move the dial across our clients, across the consumers that we influence, for our people. So I was really pleased when I came along and I saw Dentsu and Friends, how we can collaborate with our clients to impact change. And I think about that impact that you can have with not one client like State Street, not just in a group of firms like the Dive-In Festival, not for sole purpose of your own firm like Barclays, but when you collaborate and you bring the groups of the clients together, you bring the different stakeholders together, you can truly do something special. Radical collaboration is one of our values. And I think about this and think, what's really unique is that when you bring together clients, media partners, the NGO that helped us, our own people who told us what they would like to see, and you bring all of those pieces together, you are truly creating a collaboration that is beyond radical. It is the element of being together that allows it to be radical. Of course, it was across media, it was across press, and of course, the billboards are very visible, each color of the rainbow signifying a brand and aligning to that brand. And I think that, for me, is something that says, and I know lots of people are like, oh, you know, you're taking the rainbow and using it for another purpose. Yes, this purpose is to bring together a community, to bring together our clients and say to them, say to the world, we all stand for pride. We are all here celebrating pride. And this one I love, because I always like to think of it as me climbing up when you climb stairs and you're thinking about what's next. And to do it in a subtle way that allows it to influence people as they're going about their daily lives is what takes beyond Dive-In, because Dive-In is within. This is taking it outside. And when you take the message of your clients with all of the elements and you take it out, you have the ability to create meaningful progress, to really think about how you can create an impact that will drive future generations. So with that, I would like to conclude by simply saying that we have the ability to take our power of creativity. We have the ability to go beyond one idea, to think about how we partner with that. And as an industry, we can truly think about how we as the center, the one that pulls together our clients, can bring that together and bring them together, can actually amplify our efforts in creating change. Now, I'd like to think that all of the governments around the world have worked this out, but they probably need one of us to be able to make it stick. And that is where the creativity comes in. And for my Madonna moment, no. Thank you very much.